I hereby summon all my imps. Hey everybody, it's Annabelle. Today I'm going to be taking on the Castle Nathria. It's a set that just came out. It's just going to be Castle Nathria. It's not going to be all Reverend Draft, which is kind of interesting. Not sure where they're going to go with the mini set for this, because I thought that Castle Nathria would be where they would go for the mini set on this. We're going to talk about the first 10 cards revealed, so that's good for me because I was only going to go for 10 cards. The first card that we're going to talk about is one of the brand new cards that came around. This is a completely brand new card to Hearthstone. It is a location card. This one, it happens to be Muckpool, and Muckpool is a 1 mana rare shaman location card for this set. And what it is, it's 1 mana and it has 3 durability. And it's got to be in your hand, but it's a rare, not a legendary, so you can play with more than one copy of this. Each one does take up 1 spot on your board. When you play it down, you can use it immediately, and it'll lose 1 durability and use its effect. Once it uses an effect, it goes on cooldown for 1 turn. And once after that turn of cooldown happens, you can use it again. These cards are non-interactive, so they can't be attacked or attack. And they can't be destroyed, and they don't trigger any spell effects, or they don't trigger any counter spells at this particular point, unless something comes down the road that would actually trigger it. Right now, they're all 1/3s, though in the future they might make ones that have more mana or have more durability, depending on what they decide to do going forward on it. The first one that we have here is Muckpool, and Muckpool transforms a friendly minion into one that costs 1 more. Now this card's kind of an interesting card, because you can play it down early game, and you can have a card on your side of the field, and you can attack with that card, and you can have it down to like 1 health, and you can just transform it and get something better in the field. It's got to be friendly, so you can't use it on your enemy's minions. But it's random, so you don't get to choose what it's going to be. So you can turn from a good 3 into a bad 4, or a bad 3 into a good 4. You're looking for this one on battle cries, you're looking for this one on minions that have taken damage. Basically if a 3-drop already attacked and only has 1 health left, pretty much any 4-drop is better than a damaged 3-drop that you know you're going to lose next turn. You can save it for some interesting plays down the road. It's a nice thing to have on there. So I'll give this a very useful and very interesting. Next up, we're going to do the other location card. And the other location card is known as Sanguine Depths. Sanguine Depths is a 1 mana rare warrior location. And what it does is it deals 1 damage to a minion, and it gets +1 attack. Now this one doesn't seem as good as the transform ability. I'm not sure when you want to deal 1 damage to a minion and only give a +1 attack. At this point, you're not using the Frenzy anymore. Frenzy's really not in the game from Forged in the Barrens. If this had come out in Forged in the Barrens, that would have been very good as a Frenzy trigger. You can still use it as Frenzy trigger. You can also use it to kill a couple 1/1s on your opponent's side of the field that might be in your way, or do that 1 extra ping damage like a mage would. Because it's got to be to a minion though, so it can't even go face. And the thing is, are you going to really take up a slot on your board and a slot in your deck to use something that's just going to do 3 damage, but if you're not going to be using Enraged, and you're not going to really, I don't know where this is going to be, so I'm going to give this a in the wrong set, otherwise would be very useful. Next up, we're going to talk about the other 2 cards that came out for the new mechanic. We're going to start with the spell. The spell is called Door of Shadows, and what Door of Shadows does is Door of Shadows is a 1 mana common rogue spell from the set, and what it does is it draws you a spell. So what they do is they're spells that start in your hand, and they got decent effects. Drawing 1 for 1 and actually having it be a spell, so a tutor effect isn't the worst thing in the world. But if you actually have 2 minions that die, all this is in your hand. It's got to be in your hand. It can't be in your deck. It's got to be in your hand. And 2 friendly minions die. Not enemy minions, not minions altogether, friendly. So your minions have to die on this. You get a copy of that card that's a temporary copy. And the thing is that the temporary copy, if I have any idea of what it's going to be like when you played Rogue before and you got her heroic ability, where you got that temporary copy in your hand, so it might just be destroyed at the end of your turn, which would be, you know, spending 1 mana to draw a spell, and if you don't have the mana to play the other 2 of it, you're still talking like 3 mana. So at the most, you could find maybe a 4 spell off of this, play this for 1, get the 4 spell, and get another copy of this 4 spell, and that would be turn 9. Do you want to play 2 4 spells on turn 9? Again, Rogue has the ability to draw spells and draw cards more easily than this, at least at this particular point. You can't get the copies. Those copies might be useful, and you know, Rogue can go through a lot of its deck. But the turn that you're basically going to use this at the very least is you're going to have to be on turn 3 just to use this the first time around. You're going to have this in your opening hand, get to turn 3, so, you know, have 2 of your friendly minions die. And if you're having your friendly minions die, that's not something that you actually want to use. It's not something that you're hoping for. You're hoping your friendly minions don't die. I mean, they'll probably will along the way, especially if you're playing something aggro. Like you're playing Pirate Warrior or something like that, your minions are going to die. So I'll give this a... I wish I knew what temporary was. It could be interesting. Next up, we're going to be talking about the next card that was revealed, which is the Priest of the Deceased, which is just a neutral 2 mana common card with Taunt. And so it's basically a River Crackless with a little bit of an upside. And if 3 minions, friendly minions die while this is in your hand, it gets +2/+2. So you're talking a 4/5 for 2 mana. But the earliest turn that you're ever playing that is turn 4. So turn 4, turn 5 is when this is going to come down. Even on turn 4, turn 5, if on turn 4, turn 5 you got a 4/5 for 2 mana, would you be excited, or would you just go, it's a 4/5 with taunt on turn 5. There's better stuff I could do even with 2 mana on turn 5, you know. So on this particular one, I'll give it a needs to introduce the mechanic out of card pack filler. The next one that we have is, we'll start with the rares that we have left. The rare that we have left is Suspicious Usher. A Suspicious Usher is a 1 mana rare priest minion. And what it does is you have Battlecry discover a legendary minion. If your opponent guesses your choice, they get a copy. And from what I'm seeing and what I saw from the reveal on this, you can get cards that aren't always priest. Like you could end up with a rogue or a warlock card. So you might be able to sneak in something interesting. And there are also going to be turns where you don't care that your opponent's going to get the legendary. If you've got some way of getting around it, like you somehow get like a Mr. Smite, and they've got 6 health or less, you're just going to pick the Mr. Smite, and even if they guess correctly, you don't care. So I'm going to give this one a very interesting but easy to guess. Pretty easy to guess. Next, we're going to move up to the rare that we have, the epic that's left, because we've already gone over the 2 rares. We'll move on to the epic. The epic that we have is Primordial Wave. Primordial Wave is a 3 mana epic shaman spell card, and it transforms enemy minions into one that costs 1 less, and friendly minions into one that costs more. And this is a pretty interesting card for 3 mana, because it's a mass hex, it's a mass polymorph, and it's an unstable evolution on your side of the screen. So you get to buff up your cards and your opponent gets to lose their effect. The only problem is like if you have a whole bunch of taunts in your way, you can't just use this to get around your taunts, because none of your cards are going to have the initiative unless they have charge. And at this point, luckily, there's not a lot of charge in the game. So it's basically a snowball card. If your opponent has more cards than you, you know, you can play it and not feel the worst in the world, but taking a 6 down to 5 isn't the best in the world. If you've got more cards that are already winning, you can make your cards even stronger. But this one also has a neat ability of if you're a little bit behind and your opponent's a little bit ahead, it can sort of like balance back out the board. Because you can go up and they can come back down. So I'll give this a snowball out of a snowball card out of could equal out the board. The next one we're going to talk about here is Lady Vacher. Lady Vacher is a 4-mana legendary shaman card. That's a Naga. She's got the Naga tag type, so she can help with any Naga synergies. If this card would transform into a minion, summon that minion instead. So, for the most part, you can set down the effect card, the location card on this, that you can put it down before she comes out on the field, play her on 4, summon her, use the effect from the field, use the field effect, and then summon also a 5/5 right off the bat, because she's going to stay out on the field, and then it's going to summon probably a 5/5 for 5. And at that particular point, she's going to basically have a pseudo talk on her, which means she's going to have a spell thrown at her, or minions are going to go attack her, because you really don't want that effect to go off again. The thing is that if you do get her on the field, are you going to be wanting to waste a slot on the location card? Are you going to be running other transform effects into this? Are you going to how many cards are you going to put in your deck to try to support this, to try to see if you can get her out? Because if she ends up in the bottom of your deck and you've got 5-6 transform cards, this could pretty much be a dead card. The other thing is that if you do get her to survive, you can get, some good abilities, but you got to have some interesting transform effects. Are you really going to want to spend a card on her just to get a 5/5? I mean, every card in your slot is this card that you basically want, you basically need. And to have a random card come out that might just blow your synergy because it's something weird that you happen to summon could be a real downside. So I'll give this a needs some support for transform out of, would be interesting if you already have the field down. Next card we're going to be talking about is the Morocco, an obvious riff on Sherlock Holmes. And what this card is, it's a 3-mana neutral legendary minion. And what it does is it battle cries, solve 3 clues about your opponent's card to get copies of them. So the first thing that you have to figure out is what card started in their deck. Then you have to figure out what card is currently in their hand. And then the third one you got to figure out is what card is currently in their deck still. So if you get all 3 of those guesses right, you get all 3 of those cards into your side of the field. And I'm not sure this card is going to see a lot of play out of Discover effects or Meme effects, because a lot of times you want cards from your deck. You don't want cards from your opponent's decks. I mean, if you're playing against, say, a rogue and he's got a weapon empowerment and you're playing as a mage, that's really not going to help you if you got a weapon empowerment card. If you get Cutting Class off of this. I mean, yeah, Cutting Class isn't the worst card to get off of this, but if you're playing against a rogue and they've got Cutting Class and you're a mage, you wasted 3 mana to get Cutting Class, and it's now in your hand. On the other hand, I mean, it's going to give you some information. But most people, once the card comes down after 2-3 turns, they know exactly what deck they're playing if they're playing a meta deck. So I'm going to give this a probably won't see play because it's too hard to guess. We've got 2 more left. We're going to go over the Ultar, Demonstrator Ultar, which is a 6-mana legendary minion that's for warriors. And it gains +1/+1 for each damaged minion, then attacks all enemy minions. So, it's a 3/7 that your board that your opponent has to be has to have at least 1 damage on it. Then it's going to go through, and it's going to take out those minions, and it only has 7 defense. So, let's say, best case scenario, your opponent has down 7 minions, you play this, and you get +7/+7, because they're all damaged. That gives you a 14 defense, and that gives you a 10 attack. So it's a 10/14 on your side of the field when they're played. 7 minions, they're each going to say be 3/3, so that's 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12. Oh look, your creature died before it's going to clear off maybe 4 minions that had to be damaged. I mean, then that's with them just being 3/3s at that particular point on turn 6, which isn't the end of the world. So I'm not sure who wants to play this card. What situation you're in where all your opponent minions are damaged and they're not doing more than 14 back to you. I mean, you're clearing off 3-4 minions sometimes on the best case scenario. But are you gonna? It's a 6 mana to drop to roof like 3, maybe 4 minions at tops. So I'm giving this out of a not sure how this is gonna come in. Out of wish it could be better. Interesting mechanic. And last but not least, we have the Prince Runethal. Prince Runethal is the 3-mana card that everybody can go in and get right now if you log into Hearthstone. It's completely free. It's a 3-mana legendary neutral minion that at the start of the game, even before the start of your game, if you put this in your deck size is 40 and your health is 40. And that's very interesting. There's a lot of people who've been wanting more health in the game. To start with more health, this could be an aggro stopper to start with 4 health and to have, that extra 10 health in your card. And if you're playing a control deck, that you might not care that you got an extra 10 cards in your hand because you're basically waiting to stall out, waiting to end the game and have that extra 10 health that might help you. The problem is that every extra card that you add to your deck is 1 less card that you can draw. If your odds of drawing a card at the beginning of the match are 1 out of 30, they've just moved on to 1 out of 40. So you have way less odds of drawing the one particular card that you need in this situation. This could be interesting also, though. I could actually see this in some aggro decks that just burn through their hand. They have 1 million draw, 2 million draw. I could see Warlock using this because they got 1 million draw, and they just don't care. And having 10 extra removal spells is fine with them. It's going to be a very interesting card, so I'm going to give this out of. It's already free, so you might as well go have fun and play it. So anyways, those are the 10 cards that have been revealed so far. When the next 10 come out, and the next 10 get revealed, I'm going to do another review. So thank you all so much for watching. And as always, remember, play for fun.